There you go.
What kind of yarmulke are you wearing?
Me?
Liner. It's the thing, Liner.
It's the screen.
It changes to what? The screen changes to what yarmulke? Coming from
Yeah,
I
and
don't know
his,
what
beard, and his beard is black, Liner.
It's grayscale. It's monochrome, Naftali. It's night vision.
Does that make it better or worse? Okay, let's go. I don't want to. Okay, Musar, we'll try and fit it into the daf somewhere. We left off with Vamar Ula Amar Rabbi Elazar. The 8 lines up from the bottom, Yudala from the base. The halach is that if somebody owes somebody else money, you're allowed to collect from the slaves. Right? So Amar Reb Nachman le'ula, so Reb Nachman said to Ula, Amar Rabbi Elazar, afilu miyasmi. Does he say that even from Yisaimim? So meaning, if a guy left over Yerusha of Avodim, and then the guy owes money, can the person can the guy who lent money to the dead person go to his kids and take his Avodim or not? See, the din there is totally in whether, then when we're going to discuss for the Amar Aleph, it's all dependent on if a Eved is considered like Karka or not. Right? Karka, you can go to Yisaimim and collect Karka. Land can can be taken away from Yisaimim. Metaltalin, cash, whatever, cannot be. Right? So the question is, so we're saying here that if you have a debt, you're allowed to take an Eved and collect from the Eved. Fine. What about, can you do it from Yisaimim? So are Avodim considered land? So he says, Lai minei, only from him you cannot go to Yisaimim, which means that he holds that Avodim are not considered land. Right? So now we're going to go through those sugya. So the Gemara says, minei. So what are you saying? A chiddush that you're allowed to collect an Eved from a person if he owes you money? Afilu meglima dal kaspai. If anybody noticed, that's what you say in the ksuba. Right? Even if it's from him, you're allowed to take the shirt off his back. Right? What's the chiddush that you could take an Eved? Of course you could take an Eved. If you could take the shirt off his back, then you can certainly take his Eved. But interesting, because you look at Tosfos in the second Tosfos up from the bottom, and has a little bit also to do with Chanukah. Right? So, because Tosfos says, if he only has one shirt, you're not allowed to take it from him. It's only if he has 2 shirts. Right? Or if he has a very expensive shirt, you could take it from him, sell it, and give it back. Right? But you can't take the shirt off a guy's back. That you're not allowed to do. Chanukah, there's only 2 times you're allowed to take the guy's shirt off his back. That's for Chanukah menorah, to lights, and for Dalit Koises. Because of the Persume Nisa, so you're allowed to. Right? That's it. Otherwise, here, again, Tais is saying here, it means either he has 2 shirts and you take one, or he has an expensive shirt, you take it from him, sell it, and give him a cheap one. Anyways, so then what's the case here that's selling that you could collect Avodim? So when answers, Shaso a paitiki. He made it in a paitiki. So a paitiki means that he actually used it as a, what's the word for this? A collateral, right? But a specific collateral. It's not collateral?
Not exactly. It's placing the shibud specifically on this.
Right.
Collateral,
so I'm saying, it's collateral. Right. Collateral is right. Basically, what he's saying, a paitiki means that you go to the guy and say, lend me money, and if you don't lend me money, I'm giving you Eved number 1, as Eved number 1 is going to you. That's what a paitiki is, or land, or car, or whatever you decide to give. That's a paitiki. You're allowed to make your Eved into an apaitiki and sell him. Right? And a Baal Chayiv is allowed to collect from that Eved that's a paitiki. Shayrei a paitiki, right? But if he makes his shar, his ox, into an apaitiki, and then he sells it, ain Baal Chayiv goy v'himenu, then his Baal Chayiv cannot collect on the shar. Meaning, if the guy sells his apaitiki, then he can't. My time, huh? Ha is leikala, v'hala es less leikala. Selling Eved, there's a voice to it, right? Meaning people know about it. So Memela, people, if you should have known when the guy made an apaitiki that that he was selling it. But for an animal, there's no kol, right? So therefore, it's not. You're not. And if he makes it an apaitiki, he makes it a specific thing to collect from an animal. That doesn't work. But to collect from an eved, it does work. Just warning you, you're on camera. I don't know how to get it off you. So, okay. Fine. On to Amid Aleph now. Yud Beis Amid Aleph. Lapasa, now we get into some politics here. So on Yud Beis Amid Lapasa, the Nafak, after Rav Nachman went out, right? Because Rav Nachman is the one that said this shot. Yeah. So Amar Lu Ula said to the people, Rashi says, Ula said to the people that were sitting there, this is what Rabbi Elazar said, Afilu miyasmi. He says, you're even allowed to use avodim. You're allowed to take avodim even from Yisaimim, which means that he holds that avodim are karka. Amar Rav Nachman, then Rav Nachman said, right? Then Rav Nachman heard that Ula said this, right? Again, Rav Nachman said a din. Then Rav Nachman left. Ula said, I'm telling you that Rabbi Elazar disagrees with what Rav Nachman just said. So then Rav Nachman heard that Ula said this. He said, Ishtamtin Ula. Ula is trying to, from the word Shemitah, he's trying to escape from me. Meaning Ula's afraid of me. Right? Because he didn't want to say he didn't want to say in front of me what I held. Right? I mean, he didn't want to disagree with what I held. Hava Uvda ben Arda, there was a story in Arda where they collected from the assignment, meaning they went to the assignment, they took their avodim. V'agbu daini din Arda, and the agbu means they collected. The dayonim of Narda collected the avodim from the assignment. Havadodim from Bedisa, v'agve Rav Chana bar Bizna, and Rav Chana bar Mizna. By the way, Yisayim is lav dafka. Yisayim just means kids, right? V'agve Rav Chana bar Bizna, and Amar Lu Rav Nachman Zilu. And when Rav Nachman heard about it, that they collected from the avodim, he said, Zilu Adura, you got to give back the slaves to the kids. You were not allowed to collect them because they're not considered karka, they're considered metaltalin. And if you don't, I'm gonna take your whatever, I don't know, your palaces away. Meaning he held that this was such a wrong psak that if they don't give back the avodim, he's gonna go repossess their houses. So Taisa says here, Zilu Adura, that anytime there's a Taisus that's 5 words, right? Ein Mavirin, you got to do a Taisus that's 5 words, right? So Taisus Zilu Adura, Chashulu Ketayah B'Dvar Mishnah. He thought that these, I don't want to know if it's, I hate to say that this is maybe in Yonah de Yoma, right? But Rav Nachman held that they were a Tah B'Dvar Mishnah. They made such a mistake, the Dayanim. Right, again, the Dayanim of Narda and Pumpadisa, both paskin that you could collect from the avodim. And
this
Rav
mamish is in Yana the Yom, it sounds like.
That's what I'm saying, Peretz. Rav Nachman said it was such a mistake. Rav Nachman said it was such a mistake that it was a toya b'dvar mishnah, because there's 2 madregas of a Rav making a mistake. There's more than 2 madregas. I don't know if madrega is the right word, but there's 2 levels of a mistake that a Rav can make. One is a mistake in shikol hadas. He weighed the situation, and what may have happened today, right? He weighed the situation and was mistaken. I'm not saying which side is mistaken, that I'm not getting involved in, but somebody made a mistake, right? That's shikol hadas. But if you make a mistake in a beferish mishnah, then the psak is just nullified, right? So Rav Nachman is saying it's so strong that the psak was nullified that he said, I'm going to come repossess your houses if you don't give back an evet. He just said that the Dayana made a mistake. Fine.
And the Gemara uses this term, the Toya B'Dvar Mishnah. Is it lav dafka? The Gemara says you can't paskin from a Mishnah anyway.
Right. So yeah, it doesn't mean, no, it means Toya B'Dvar Mishnah, I think, is just a code for he made a mistake in an often a psak. Right. That's what it means. It doesn't mean dafka in the Dvar Mishnah. I mean, the Shai always had this Shaila. Let's say a rabbi's stuck and he doesn't have a Mishnah Brura, right? And you ask him a Shaila, and he paskins like the Shulchan Aruch. Even though a lot of times Mishnah Brura says, yeah, that's the sheet of the Mechaber the Ramah, but many Achronim not go down like that, and the Kubal Psak is from the Mishnah Brura. But the guy didn't have a Mishnah Brura with him. He's stuck upstate in the side of the road in the gas station, right? Right. So now what? Is that called Tov B'Dvar Mishnah? How could you say that? He didn't have it.
No, that's just Talbot Dvar Mishnah Brura.
Very good, very good. But I'm saying, but I don't know. I don't know exactly how you define Tov B'Dvar Mishnah. But whatever it is, he held that you make a straight out mistake. That they made a straight out mistake. Fine. Amalei Rav Rav Nachman, but Rav went to Rav Nachman. This is Peretz. Man, this is mamish. You can't beat it. I didn't even realize today while learning this Gemara. Amalei Rav Ha Ula. You have Ula Ha Rebbe Lazar Ha Dayoni Danada. I don't know why he left out the Dayanim with Pumbedisa, right? For Ha Rav Chana Bar Bizna, Marka Matzil. Who do you go like? We got all the. I got a whole list of rabbis.
Chana Bar Bizna is the Dayan of Pumbedisa.
Was he?
I
know. So why? No, you're right. You're right, Taka. But why didn't they call him Pumbedisa? Right. I guess because in the Gemara it gives a specific name. Okay. Anyways, so he said to him, we have all these rabbis who hold that you're allowed to collect from a slave. You're allowed to collect a slave, not from a slave. You're allowed to collect a slave from Yarshim. So then man keman tzvirule. Who do you go like? Right? Who do you go like? I know a brisa. The Tana Avimi Pruzbul Chalala Karka. Right? We know that Pruzbul is in order to make loans. In order to make loans go by Shemitah, so you have to have a little bit of karka. In order to the pruzbul is that you give over your loan to Bezdin, therefore you could collect the loan. Normally you can't collect loans after Shemitah. The pruzbul allows, but you have to have land. You have to have a little bit of land in order to collect on the pruzbul. So what happens if you have only an eved? So pruzbul, the Gemara says pruzbul's chalal karka ve'ena chalal avadim. It's not chalal avadim, right? So you see that avadim are not land, right? Well, really, it's on the next. Metaltalin niknanim karka ve'ena niknanim avadim, and metaltalin can be collected with karka. I mean, when you kind of karka, right, and then you kind of land, and with the land you kind of the furniture, and you could be kind of something we're going to see in the rest of the daf where the stuff has to be. But you cannot be kind of an eved, meaning you could be kind of karka, and together with the karka, you could be kind of other belongings too. Right? It's called kinyan agav. That agav, well, it's agav karka, right? Which is what we do. One of the kinyanim, we've said it before, by mechiras chametz. One of the kinyanim we do is that the Rav gives over, let's say, a piece of his property, let's say his closet or whatever, a shed, a garage, and agav that, the guy is being kind of all the chametz that anybody has, right? So we're saying that you can't do that agav and eved. So clearly, he holds that eved is not karka. Eved is metaltalin, and since it's metaltalin, the Baal Chayiv, the owner, right, the guy that lent the money, cannot collect from it. Okay, let's say this whole thing is a machlokes tanoim. So if a guy sold somebody land and avodim, hichzik ba'avodim lo'kana karkois. If the guy makes a chazaka, right, in order to be kind of something, you have to make a chazaka. So hichzik ba'avodim lo'kana karkois, you're not kind of karka. The karkois lo'kana avodim, and if you do karka, you're not kind of avodim. Right? Yeah. So you see that they're different. They're not both considered karka. Karka is a metaltalin. If you're buying karka and metaltalin, hichzik bekarka, kana metaltalin. If you be kind of the karka, like we just said, you're kind of the metaltalin. Be metaltalin, like kana karka. But if you're kind of the metaltalin, you're not kind of the karka. Meaning, if you're selling your house to somebody together with the furniture, and the guy makes a kinyan on the furniture, he cannot be kind of the house. If you're kind of the house, you could be kind of the furniture, right? Avodim metaltalin. And if, let's say, you're being kaina avodim and metaltalin, hichzik ba'avodim like kana metaltalin. If you're machzik the avodim, if you hold on to the one, you're not kind of the metaltalin. The metaltalin like kana avodim. With the metaltalin, you're not kind of avodim. Right? So that's one brisa that's clear that metaltalin, that avodim are not considered karka. Right? Vatanya hichzik ba'avodim kana metaltalin. We have another brisa that says if you're kaina and eved, you are kind of metaltalin. So you see that an eved is like land. Just like land, you can make a kinyan on the land, and then you get the belonging, the metaltalin with it. So too with an eved. So it's a machloike. Seems to be two conflict prices. My lab hakamivli. What's the machloike? The marsa where avodim kimekar koidami. One holds avodim is like karka. Umarsa where avodim kimetaltalin. The other one holds that that avodim is like metaltalin. So Gemara says, Amar Rav Ika Brei Rav Ami the Kuli Alma avodim kubikakardami. Everybody holds avodim is like karka. Father Tanya Kana, and this that we said that that you're going to be kaina, right? Shapish, so that works, right? Meaning if you hold an eved is like karka, so if you kaina the eved, you're kind of the metaltalin, right? The movable things. Father Tanya loikana, okay, so how do you explain the brides of loikana? Be'inon karka dumya da'aram mitzaras beYehuda. You need to have karka that's similar to cities, like regular cities that are in Yehuda, right? We have this in Kedushin, right? Meaning the Kinyan Agav Karka has to be the type of Karka that I was talking about, that we learn out the whole din, which is it's a regular city. An Eved, even though it's considered Karka, but it's not considered like Aram Mitzaras Yehuda. The Loy Naidi, why not? Because they don't move. Meaning a regular city, regular land doesn't move. An Eved, even though it's considered Karka, it moves. So because it moves, so technically you cannot be kind of metaltalin since the Eved moves, even though be'etzem it is considered karka. So we're saying a knech. We're saying everybody holds that an Eved is a karka, but you cannot be kind of things agav the Eved because the Eved can move. Okay, the Tanan. Yes, how do we know this? The Tanan nechasim shein lam achrayis, nechasim that don't have achrayis, which is just a code word for movable property. Well, not property, I guess property, but things that are movable. Niknin nechasim sheyesh achrayis. You could be kind of them with things that have achrayis, which is land. Bekesef, b'shtar, v'chazaka, and you can either be kind of with money, with a star, or making chazaka. Minani mili. So Amar Chizkiya, Amar Krav, v'yitin lehem aviyim matanis rabbis lekesef u'lezav u'lemigdanis amarim mitzaris b'Yehuda. Right. This is the pasuk that we were referring to before. That he was makne to them, gold and silver and nice things together with the cities that he gave them. So you see that it works dafka with the city, which you can't move. Ika da Amri, Amrav Ika Brei de Rav Idi, the Kuliyama Avdikim Metatlan. Everybody holds that Avadim is like Metatlan. Vada Tani Loikona Shapir, and the one that says you're not koina works out because it's Metatlan. And Hada Tanya, because an Eved is Metatlan. So you can't be koina Metatlan with other Metatlan. And Hada Tanya Kana, but I don't know love. And the one that says you're still koina is talking about where the where it's mamish in the chotzer, right? Which is considered really agav karka. Yeah.
You mean on the Eved?
On the Eved, correct. Right.
I mean,
meaning the Eved is
his clothing, or he's holding
what?
something.
He's holding.
It means his clothing, or he's holding something.
I think both.
Yeah.
Both. No.
Yeah.
Whatever he has on him, a hat. Yeah. So Gemara asks, so what if it's on him? He's a chatzer ma'aleches. He's a chatzer that's moving. The chatzer ma'aleches loikana. You can't be kind with a chatzer ma'aleches, meaning of a moving chatzer, right? And if you say that it's somewhere where the guy was standing still, that can't be because if it would be walking, you're not kind it. So standing up and sitting, you're also not kind of. Right? So how could it be that you're kind of agav the Eved? We're talking about where it was tied up, meaning the Eved was tied up, so he couldn't move. Since he couldn't move, so therefore he's considered a chotzer that's not walking.
Isn't by definition a chotzer karka? We just said he's kuli alma avdik metaltalin. How does metaltalin become a chotzer?
The what?
This is according to the kuli alma avdik metaltalin.
Correct.
In the next line, he's a chotzer. How do you have a metaltalin chotzer?
What do you mean? You put the metaltalin.
Chotzer by definition is karka.
Correct.
Well, we just said avdik metaltalin. So now he's a chotzer?
Yeah, but Aidan Alav, he becomes a chotzer. Right. He's a chotzer. Well, the Gemara is thinking He's considered metaltalin, but when he's not moving, then you can be koinet. Then
For that
like
1
Dr.
second
Foreman
that he's
just said,
tied down?
then he asks, then they want to ask, what do you mean? But it's a chazim aleches.
I mean, Chatzer Ma'aleches, you'd still have this shakla v'tarya if Avdi Kimekarki. If we're using an Eved and he's Kimekarki Dami, the Kenyan would be a Kenyan Chatzer. So you'd have a problem with Chatzer Ma'aleches. But how does Metaltalin ever become a Chatzer? Can my sheep be a Chatzer? I own a sheep. So if I put a pan on top of a sheep, I can be kind of with a Kenyan Chatzer. If I tie the sheep up, this is a new Kenyan Chatzer. We've defined.
Yeah, but I think I know you're saying you want to do this by an evet too. I thought it's dafka.
I'm talking about the Eved, no?
No, I'm saying, but it's dafka by an evet. I don't think it would be by anything else.
Well, this is one second. This Tanya Kamma. Are we talking about where he's being kind of karka and agav the karka is being kind of the Eved? I thought we were talking about Metaltalin.
He's being kind of the evet. And then
being kind of the Eved, and agav the Eved, he's being kind of Metaltalin.
Correct. That
So
are on
this work with a sheep?
No, I don't. I think it's exclusive to Evet. Why? I don't know.
What's the difference? We just said Alzik Metaltalin.
Right.
Well, if an Eved is Metaltalin,
We
how does he
can
become
hold
a
it for later. You can hold it for later. Questions will be asked after the daf.
This is Pashup Shat in the Gemara, parrots.
It's good enough for me. Not on the side of the highway.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to you, but I assume that it's dafka avodim. I mean, maybe Toises Machalei Avodim Kakos is what you're asking, Gershon. Could be that's I don't. It could be that's what you're asking. Anyways, the second wide line down. Vatanya Hichzik Bekarka Kona Avodim. We have the Bryce that says if you machzik in the karka, you're Kona Avodim. Right? How does that work? So when it says Hasam Ba'imdim B'Seicha, no, you're only be kind of the Avodim when they're standing inside the field. If you're kind of field and there's an Evet sitting inside the field, so then you could be kind of him. Otherwise, you cannot be kind of. Right? So when it says Mechlal Da'ai Loi Kana, it's mashma that when it says that the first price that it says that you're not kaina the avodim kishein aimdim b'saycha, that's talking about when they're not standing in the field, because if the avodim was standing in the field, you'd be kind of them. That only works according to the version of Rav Ika bar Imi that avdi kumatatli dami, that avodim are like matatlin. Hainu di aimdim b'saycha in Eloi, Loi. That's that. Then we understand that if the Eved's standing in the field, then it works. If not, not. Elach lishna do Omar. Avdikim karkoidami. But according to the Mandomer that says Avadim are like karka, lamali I'm the Messiah. Why do you need I'm the Messiah? Hamar Shmuel, Machaloi Eser Sadis, Eser Medinas. Also, Shmuel has a very interesting din. Shmuel holds that if you're kind of 10 different pieces of real estate at the same time, right? Naftali, you're kind of a real estate portfolio, right? So do you have to be kind of every single one of them, right? Mitzvah Bayun, Naftali, right? You're kind of real estate portfolio, right?
It's one deal.
One deal. Do you have to do a kinyan on every karka? So Shmuel says no. You're kind of 10 fields. Once you do a chazak on one, kana kulan. You kind of all of them, right? Yeah.
Naftali, you don't realize what Yaakov just told you. He gave you a major bracha. He said, in this economy, you should be able to buy a portfolio.
I understand what he said. I said amen. I said amen right away.
Saying he didn't say.
You understand?
Right. Yeah.
No, but in this economy, it's not pasha. That's all.
Well, now that,
sometimes you're just supposed to keep your mouth shut.
But anyways, so according to Shmuel, you could be kind of all of them with one thing. So then why would you need the Eved? Why would you need the Eved? If you hold Eved as karka, so why do you need him to be standing in the field? The Gemara first says, and according to you, right? What about according to the other girsa, which is that avodim are metaltal. Lamali oimid b'saycha. Why does he need to be standing in it? Antom it bays now. Hakai melon delaybi in itziburin. We say that you don't need to be piled up, meaning which exactly what we do in mechiras chametz, right? We don't need the metaltalin to be sitting in the field, right, into sitting in your karka. Otherwise, how would we be makna how would we kind of the chametz? How would the guy be kind of the chametz? Everybody's chametz is sitting in their own houses. How are you being, because you give the rabbi is selling him a piece of his land, everybody's chametz is going to go agav it? No, because the answer is it doesn't. I mean, that's meaning it's not in his karka. So we say it doesn't have to be in his karka. It doesn't have to be piled up. It's the same thing. If you hold that an eved is like metaltalin, so why does it have to be? What are you going to say? Shani metaltali denaidi mi metaltali denaidi. You're going to say there's a difference between things that are movable by themselves and metaltali that are not movable, right? Meaning normal items that can't move by themselves, that does not have to be in the land that you're acquiring. But avodim who can move around, so then you have to get them to sit in one place, right? They can't be having ADHD. You know what I mean? They got to sit in the karka in order for you to be kindness, right? So Rashi, Tosfos says, the top Tosfos, Shani Metaltali, Tosfos says, Peter Sheyesh Lem Das. It's very interesting because the Gemara just says that metaltalin don't have a life to them, so then they don't have to be piled up. But an eved that has movement that does. So Tosfos, I don't know if this gets into machshava or not, but Tosfos is saying that it has to have das, right? And therefore behemoths, because what about behemoths? Behemoths move. Does a behemoth, can you be kind of behemoth with karka? Right? But they don't have das. So that's what Tosfos is saying. Avodim have das, so therefore you have to. So the Gemara says, Hachanami, says that's the only way to explain avodim with metaltalin. So Hachanami, Shani mikarkoi denaidi mikarkoi delai naidi. We're going to also differentiate when you're using the karka to be kind of something, meaning when you're saying that the eved, is as karka, but there's a difference between movable karka and not movable karka. Avde mikarkoi denaidihu. Avodim is considered karka that moves. Right, so therefore you can't put it together. You can't be kind of karka, real karka that doesn't move, together with an eved that does move. And Hassam, sadna da arachadhu. But there by Shmuel, when all you're being kind is 10 different fields, so then sadna da ara means the whole world is connected. Right, meaning all the land is touching each other. So once you make a chazaka on one, then you make a chazaka, and then it's an automatic chazaka on the other. Right, so it comes out. It's a very lumdisha thing, but that there's all these differences in how to be kaina agav. Doing kinyan agav is all going to be dependent on if the thing you're being kaina is moving or not moving, and then the things that you want to be kaina with that thing, are those moving? Are they not moving? Right, so that all is dependent on how you approach it. Fine. Then the Gemara says the next case in the Mishnah is Nechasam She'ein Ben Me'ila. So we said that if you damage somebody, right, and that you're not over on Me'ila, meaning the thing that you damaged, if you would have used it, you wouldn't be over on Me'ila. Me'ila is when you use something from Hektish by mistake. So usually you'll have to pay it back plus a fifth. So if the thing that you damaged, had you taken it by mistake, you would not have to pay Me'ila, you wouldn't have to be Chai Me'ila, then you have to pay damages. But if you'd be over on Me'ila, it sounds like if you'd be over on Me'ila, then you would be potter from damages. So the Gemara says, Me'ila, we're 6 lines down now. Me'ila, who the less who? It's mashma, there's no payment if there's no Me'ila. I'm sorry, there's Me'ila, there's payment if there's no Me'ila. Hamikdash kadshe, but mashma that if the thing is hektish, but you're not over on Me'ila, then you would be chayiv. Mantana, who's that Tana? Amar Rabbi Yochanan bekachim kalim. It's talking about kachim kalim. I'll leave it to Rabbi Yosef Glili. It's going according to Rabbi Yosef Glili. The Amar Maman Bailim, who Rabbi Yosef Glili holds that kachim kalim belong to the Maman belongs to the owner of the kachim kalim. Memela, since he owns the kachim kalim, that's called re'ehu, shar re'ehu, and therefore when you damage him, you'd be mechuyev to pay, even though it's hektish. So meaning what the Gemara is being medayik in the Mishnah is when the Mishnah says the chasim that don't have me'ilah, it means they don't have me'ilah, but if they have hektish, since we hold that hektish really belongs to you, at least kachim kalim, not kachim obviously don't belong to you. That goes in the Beis Hamikdash on the Mizbech, and that's it. So then that would be considered as your friends, and memela you'd be chayiv if you damage it. The Tanya Umola Mal Bashem. It says it's interesting. It says this is talking about where you made a shvua and you lied, right? But who'd you lie to? Umola Mal Bashem. Why is it saying Bashem? What does Hashem have to do with this? Meaning you lied to your friend, right? So why is it sticking in the word Hashem? The rabbis kachim kalim shema minor. So what it's telling you is that if you lied about, let's say you gave a behemoth of shlomim, was given over to a friend to watch, and then it got damaged, and he denied it, and he swore, and then he was maidas, and he's gonna have to pay Karen and Chaimish. He's gonna have to pay the fifth, right? Even though it's Kodshe Shemayim, and normally you don't do that for Kodshe Shemayim, but since it's Kachim Kalam, and Kachim Kalam is considered your own, so therefore you have to pay. So you see, Rabbi Yosef Glili, this is according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, who holds that Kachim Kalam belong to the owner, whether the owner is the balabas who's eating parts of the carbon, or it's the kayan with the matnas kahuna, either one of those. So Gemara asks, well, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Makadosh bechelkai. Let's say a man is Makadosh a woman with his chelek of a behema, right? Bein bekachim kachim, bein bekachim kalim. Whether it's kachim kachim, kachim kalim, ain't a mekadeshes. She's not married. So that how could it be if it's considered mom and bailim the kachim kalim? So why is she not married? Lema the like Rabbi Yosef Glili. Let's say it's not like Rabbi Yosef Glili. More answers a filu time Rabbi Yosef Glili. Kiyam Rabbi Yosef Glili mechayim. Because when did Rabbi Yosef Glili say his din? That's when when the animal is alive, right? Avala'acha shchita, I feel Rabbi Yosef Glili might, but after shchita, that then it's no longer considered mom and the bailam. Because once the carbon gets shechted and they bring it onto the mizbeach, that's considered like it belongs to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and now the Rebbeinu Shalom is sharing it, kavayachol, however that means everything the Rebbeinu Shalom is sharing, but he's sharing it with either the owner of the carbon or the kayhan. Mela no longer belongs to them. So what we're saying is that, granted, according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, it belongs to him, but it belongs to the owner, but not once it's dead. So Gemara says, Mechayim Omar, and did he really say that from Mechayim it belongs to him? V'tanan b'char ma'ikron say tam chai. As v'lo shachet is in the parentheses. B'char, you could sell. What should we do? Akdami here. Yeah. So basically, let's just explain because it gets a little technical here, right? The b'char it goes to the kohen. Normally, what happens is you give the b'char to the kohen, and he has to bring it as a carbon. And then he gets to eat whatever is left of it, right? But he has to eat it in Yerushalayim. But that's bachar that doesn't have a mum. But a bachar that has a mum, then the kohen still gets it, but he could shecht it and finished, right? Yeah. So that's the basic din of bachar, right? Nowadays we had this before. So we had this before in I don't remember where we had it. But we had that nowadays, obviously, we don't have any bechar. So what you do, let's say somebody does get a bechar. So basically, you put it out to pasture, and you wait for it to get a mum. The problem is nowadays, we don't have any bekim to know exactly which type of mums. That's why whenever you have an animal that's having a potential bechar, you sell it to a guy. Right? That's another area. Once we're talking about mechiras chametz, so you can also sell it to a guy. Because like this, once a guy owns it, then there's no bechar. That's why you don't hear of this situation nowadays, right?
Isn't the shutfus enough? Shutfus with a guy?
Shutfus with a guy, yeah. That's what I meant. You sell it, yeah. So bechar, remember I had this shiloh once with somebody from Texas and didn't know this din, right? And then they had a bechar, and then it came out that they had bought it once it was pregnant from a guy, so that was enough, right? But anyways, so bechor moichronos tam chai, a bechor you could sell it as a tam when it's alive, ubalmum chai v'shochet. But once it's a balmum, then he could sell it whether it's chai or shochet, whether it's alive or shechted. He's allowed to sell it because seemingly the bechor belongs to him, so he could do what he wants. Umakach ways he can marry a woman. That's only talking about a bechor b'zman hazeh, right? That it belongs to him. The kivan deloy chazi lakrava. Since b'zman hazeh, unfortunately, we can't be makrivit. Islu lekahanim zechiyah bagavayu. So the kahanim have a schus in it. B'zman shebeis hamikdash kayim. But when there's a beis hamikdash, the chazi lakrava, where the bechor could be brought, loy. So then he's not allowed to sell it. Ve'esvei Rava l'Rav Nachman, and Rava asked the kasher of Nachman, Mola mal b'Hashem. We said that it says Mola mal b'Hashem, that he's over meila to Hashem. The Rava is kachim kalam shein mamayna. That comes to include kachim kalam that it's his mommy. The Rabbi Yosei Aglili. That's Rabbi Yosei Aglili, right? So you see that even in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, and even when it's considered the mammon bailim, right? Mashani, let's see, Mashani Ravina answers. The Bechor b'chutz la'aretz is talking about a Bechor in chutz la'aretz. V'alir b'd Reb Shimon, and it's going according to Reb Shimon, the Omar who says in Bo Tamimim Yikruvu. If animals come from outside of Eretz Yisrael and they're brought up to Yerushalayim and they don't have a mum, then you makar them. In Bo, it's mashma only if you brought them up. L'chatchila loy, but l'chatchila you can't, right? Okay, so therefore what? Ve'im Isa, and if it's true, right, that we differentiate between that Rabbi Yosei Aglili says that only when it's a bechor tam that you're allowed to sell it in chutz la'aretz or outside of Eretz Yisrael, right? The chiyam Rabbi Yosei Aglili m'maynehu mechayim, that when Rabbi Yosei Aglili said his din that it's only considered your mammon when it's alive. On Talmud Aleph now, Lishni, why don't you just answer Rabbi Yosei Aglili, Harabanan? Why can't you just answer the stira that one is Rabbi Yosei Aglili and one is the Rabbanan? Right? And since the Gemara doesn't say that, so it must be that he doesn't differentiate between when the animal's alive and when the animal's dead. So the Gemara says, so Amar Leis, he said back to him, right? So some Amar Allah, so whatever, that's the way it changes. Matnos kahuna kamer. You're talking about matanas of kahuna? Shani matnas kahuna dechi kazachu mishul gavaya kazachu. Like we said before, matnas kahuna are different because when you're kaina it as a shulchan gavaya, right? So meaning we're saying that a bechar also, we also say that even though bechar l'char is a matana from a human, right? The human gives it to the bechar. Still, we're saying no. It's still considered from the Rabbeinu Shalom, and when the kohen is allowed to eat it or allowed to use it, that's because it's shulchan gavaya, right? So therefore, if once it's shulchan gavaya, then it's no different than an animal after it dies, and therefore it does not belong to the kohen. Okay, that's a little confusing there. I don't know if I explained it too well, but if I didn't, I apologize. All right, we'll stop over here. Appreciate the patience, and wherever everybody